ANC provincial secretaries have until Thursday to submit the names of officials implicated in corruption. This follows a National Executive Committee resolution that those accused of wrongdoing step aside or face suspension. Well, to speak to us about how the process will unfold, we're joined by ANC spokesperson Pule Mabe. Mr. Mabe, good evening and thank you so much for your time. Firstly, just a point of clarity in terms of who exactly is going to be expected to step down. Is it people who are facing charges related to corruption, or is it those that have been implicated in such cases but may well not be facing charges?
Well, evening, Oskathy, and evening to your viewers. It has been a very long day for us here at the African National Congress. You would remember that when we concluded our National Executive Committee on the 26th to the 29th of March last month, we did then agree on the guidelines around stepping aside. This was after work done by our Treasurer General, Comrade Paul Mashadile, having consulted with legal minds, senior cadres in the movement to try and develop guidelines that when processed, they will be able to be located well within our own constitutional framework. The NEC then, when it rose, then agreed that those of our cadres who faces or alleged of serious offences or are criminally charged would then be allowed the 30-day period. So during the 30-day period, what would then be happening is that provincial secretaries working together with the Secretary General's office would then embark on an exercise of really compiling the names of those cadres who could be affected by the decision. Should it happen that after the 30-day period there's not been movement even on those comrades whose names have been compiled in that way, the National Executive Committee would then activate 25.70 of the ANC Constitution, which effectively imposes a summary suspension against such members who will not be complying with the decisions of the upper structure. Now, to give effect to this, the SGO has already written to provinces requesting of them to then begin that process. They are then expected to have submitted those names to the office of the Secretary General, to the Secretary General's office, by the 15th, which is tomorrow, so that they could also be able to conclude their work on time. Our Secretary General has informed us previously, and this was also shared with us in the report to the National Working Committee on the 12th, that because of the situation that he was also facing himself, where he's also appearing in court, that he will also be seeking counsel from senior cadres of the organization. He has already met with the former Treasurer General, Comrade Matthew Posa. He will be meeting with President Jacob Zuma again this week as well, as part of what he has already said that he will be doing during this period.
Yes, but Pule, you still haven't dealt with the issue of these, of the members who are affected by this. The resolution seemed to have been clear in terms of members who have been implicated in corruption and are facing criminal charges. The memo, at least the leaked memo that has been sent out of the Secretary General's office, says members facing allegations of corruption or crime and those facing charges or convicted. So that memo seems to widen the scope beyond just those who have criminal cases against them. And that's what I'd like you to clarify.
Okay, no, that's okay, Oskathy. I was trying my best to try harmonize and reconcile all of the issues that are now before us, including confirming that there is a process outlined where compilation of the names is taking place. These reports will all be going to the National Executive Committee for finality. So I would say where we are now, because we are still well within that very period, the National Executive Committee has taken its decisions and has been able to pronounce those out to the public. The Secretary General has indeed communicated to provinces. So the work to give effect to the resolution of the National Executive Committee is really going on in earnest. Once that is done, then officials will then be able to say, this is what we've compiled, because part of what we are also expected to do is to then finalize reports coming from the Integrity Commission, because remember, we couldn't conclude all of these things because we had quite a lengthy National Executive Committee. We had agreed that the balance of the issues that had not been dealt with, when we meet again, we'll have to also make sure that we conclude on those. So we are quite clear in terms of the work that we are doing, and all of the activities that we said should be taking place within this period are indeed being undertaken. Our own provincial structures are being engaged in all of that.
I'm not disputing that at all. The point that I'm asking you is for you to clarify this issue. When you get those names from the provinces, must it be names of people who have been criminally charged, as in would have cases opened and would be facing some kind of action criminally through the state? Or will it include those who have been implicated in corruption? And I would imagine that the next question is depending on what the nature of those allegations are, because that's what the memo of the Secretary General says. It's not just limited to the charges. It says that facing allegations of corruption, crime, and that's much broader than just people who are facing cases before the state.
Well, Kathy, I wouldn't really want to speak on an internal memo of the organization whose dissemination to the media was not sanctioned by us. I'm only at liberty to reflect and refer to what we had issued out to the public. Because you see, it's quite dangerous to want to draw spokespersons of the ANC to speak on what was leaked. We don't do that. We've refused that with all other media outlets. Decisions of the ANC, especially the ones meant for the public, are communicated through press statements. Internal memos of the ANC remain just that. They are for internal consumption. If there is any internal memo of the African National Congress which we want to make a subject of the media, we'll then call a press conference to come and talk about that.
But Bule, you're speaking after the fact. So the memo has already been made public, and that's what's creating confusion. And it's such a simple issue for you to clarify.
I can't give legitimacy to something that I didn't sponsor out in the public. I'm sorry, I can't.
So are you effectively saying that the confusion that has been created by this leaked memo, as it's perceived, that what is contained in that memo is in fact not true?
Well, I'm not going to speak about information leaked and sanctioned by ourselves. That will be ill discipline on my part. I can't do that. I've never done that. I'm not about to do it.
Okay, that's fine. Can you at the very least give me clarity when it comes to this list that you're expecting from the provinces? Will that list include just people who are facing criminal charges, or will it include those that have been implicated in corrupt activities but might not necessarily have cases before the state opened against them?
We have conferred that responsibility to our national officials, the Secretary General's office, working together with provinces. So sitting where I am, Oskate, as a member of the NEC, as a spokesperson of the African National Congress, I've not seen the list. So I can only speak to you once a submission has been made before the National Executive Committee. For now, matters of processing decisions of the NEC, part of those that are internal are being handled by the relevant offices. Those that are external, we come out, we communicate to yourselves, like we did to give you an update on the outcome of the National Working Committee.
But Bule, this is really a simple issue, Bule. It's either you're expecting a list from provinces of people implicated in criminal cases and facing charges, or you're not. And I'm asking you that tomorrow, in terms of this deadline that has been set, when you receive these documents, Are there going to be lists on those documents of people who are facing criminal charges, or more broadly, people that have been implicated in allegations of corruption?
Well, what I'm saying to you, Oskati, maybe let me repeat myself, that the national officials, through the Secretary General's office, are processing those, including communicating with provinces. So once, and the deadline has been set for tomorrow, now when they bring back that report, the report will then be able to then say, in getting all this or formulating these lists, this is what provinces had played reliance on. For instance, the guidelines, the step-aside guidelines deal with 4 aspects. It deals with aspects of those that could be criminally charged, those that are facing serious allegations, and those that it's 4. It's just that I'm not having the guidelines in front of me, but there are actually 4 areas that begin. So when they compile the list, they will then be using the very guidelines, because those guidelines were first consulted with provinces. It means that the guidelines now set out the framework that is expected to be utilized by provinces when they compile the list. So I'm not now at liberty to say, the list is going to be of those that have been criminally charged and are already appearing in a court of law, or will be of those that are facing serious allegations but are not necessarily criminally charged, because the guidelines themselves provide these 4 areas. So it could be that when provinces make submission, they then follow that kind of a framework. So at this stage, I wouldn't know what will come from the Northern Cape, what will come from Limpopo, what will come from Northwest, what will come from the head office of the ANC. So now it is not as simple as you might want it to come across. No, there are guidelines. These guidelines lay a framework under which we are supposed to be able to process some of these things. Communique that happens with provinces follows the kind of guidelines that we've already laid out there, because we ourselves in the National Executive Committee at all times must be loyal to our own decisions. That's why we can't right in the middle of the road when national officials and SGO are busy implementing or processing some of the issues, and then we come out and want to take preemptive strikes. We will be compromising a process that we shall have agreed upon ourselves.
All right. That was ANC spokesperson Pule Mabe. Thanks for your time tonight, Mr. Mabe. We'll leave it there.